Hello, and welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto, attorney at law in the state of Michigan, where I've been practicing law now for 24 years as of this week, specifically in the fields of consumer protection and lemon law. If you bought a bad car or a bad product in the state of Michigan, I'm one of the guys you call to see if we can straighten that out. I also write frequently for Jalopnik's subblog, The Garage, and from time to time I write for Opposite Lock. I also write books, including this one called Chrysler's Turbine Car, The Rise and Fall of Detroit's Coolest Creation. In fact, the reason I'm wearing the Peterson Museum shirt today is in honor of them and their turbine car. They're one of the people who've actually got a turbine car on display. They built 55 turbine cars, Chrysler did, and 9 of them were saved, 46 were destroyed. One of the survivors at the Peterson Museum in Los Angeles. I highly recommend you check that out. Questions or comments about the cars themselves? Check out the book. Today we're talking about the legalities of dash cams. With modern technology, questions arise. What's legal, what's not legal, what's smart, what's not smart. The two don't always go hand in hand. So I'm going to try to talk to you about some of the issues that arise with dash cams. We've been seeing a lot of stuff, especially with YouTube, about all the goofy things people catch on dash cams. And of course, some spectacular things, car accidents, falling meteorites in Russia, fake car accidents in China, and of course, bad traffic stops. So in America, if you've got a dash cam in your car, there's some things you need to think about. And of course, there's just some stuff you should know. If for no other reason, then you can have some great conversation at a party when someone mentions to you a dash cam. So dash cams are becoming ubiquitous. And ubiquitous is a fun word. It means everywhere. You see them everywhere. And that's because the prices have been dropping. They've been getting smaller and more efficient. You can now buy a camera that's about yay big and will shoot high-def video for you onto a little digital card, and you can then edit it and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. And those cameras are now so inexpensive. I've even seen ads for them on TV from the same, as seen on TV people as sell you things like the Popeel Pocket Fisherman. Remember those? So you can now buy a dash cam and straight off the TV, mount it in your car, and boom, you're dash camming. The question is, what do you need to know? So there's a couple different situations a dash cam might come into play, things you need to know about. First of all, are dash cams legal in the first place? And in most states, they got no problem with you using one so long as it doesn't obscure your vision. Don't put the dash cam in the middle of the windshield directly in front of the driver, because a cop could pull you over and say you're driving with an obscured windshield. Now, dash cams for the most part are small enough. They're not going to block your view. You'll be fine. But you're probably going to want to put it down and a ways a little bit, maybe towards the center of the windshield and down. Keep it out of your field of vision so it doesn't, block you from seeing something. The dash cam will catch it for you, but you still want to be able to see while you're driving, okay? So the fact that they're easy to use is great. They're probably not illegal as long as, it's out of the way. The question is, who does it record and what can you do with the recording, okay? So the first and most obvious one is you're driving down the road, just like in the TV commercial, and someone crosses the center line and runs into you head on, okay? You caught the whole thing on camera, you wake up in the hospital, you're happy to hear that your dash cam survived and clearly shows that the other person crossed the center line and hit you head on. The accident was their fault, okay? The dash cam at that point becomes a very useful tool because it proves what happened, but like anything else, it's evidence. So you got to make sure the dash cam gets preserved and you hang on to that little card and you show it to whoever needs to see it, whether that's an insurance adjuster for your claim or the police who are investigating who to write tickets for, or heaven forbid you wind up in court, you might be showing that video to a jury. So the dash cam's card and what it records can become evidence, just like anything else. Now don't think that just because you've got the evidence you're going to be able to skate out of all your problems. You're not necessarily going to be able to do that. But the dash cam is certainly compelling evidence. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and video more so. They've done studies, and they say juries love to see multimedia presentations. So if you can come into court and say, today we're fighting over an accident, you're going to decide who's at fault, and we're going to show you a video of the accident, the jury's going to disregard almost everything they're told from that point forward simply because they want to see the video. Okay? The video is that compelling. But you have to keep in mind one important thing. Because the video is evidence, you cannot delete the video if it goes against you, okay? So let's suppose you're the person who crossed the center line and you hit someone head on, and now you realize, oh my gosh, I can get away with this if that dash cam simply disappears. So you take the dash cam, you take it out and you toss it in a ditch, nobody ever finds it, okay? You could wind up later on in trouble for destroying evidence. And here's what many people don't know about, is there's a concept in the law called spoliation of evidence. If a party has evidence of something that is, critical at issue in a lawsuit and they destroy the evidence, the court can instruct the jury that that evidence was going to go against that party. That's why they destroyed it. And so you're better off hanging on to bad evidence than you are destroying it, because you might be able to explain the bad evidence away somehow, but you can't explain away a jury instruction that the judge gives the jury and tells the jury, by the way, you can assume, you can presume that this video would have hurt this party. That's why they destroyed it. And the other side can have a field day with that, saying, guess what might have been on that video? Here are all the reasons they may have destroyed it. And so you don't ever want to destroy it. So remember that if you get the dash cam and it's recording, you're going to be stuck with that for the good and for the bad. If you're a good driver, great. Dash cam will help you. If you're a horrible driver, don't get the dash cam. If you know someone is a horrible driver and they're always getting in accidents, encourage them to never get a dash cam, because the dash cam will probably come back to haunt them someday, okay? So very, very important to keep in mind that it creates evidence. That evidence can hurt you, it can help you, but whatever you do, you cannot destroy that evidence, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. I knew somebody once who worked at a big corporation, and they told me that there was a car accident involving a company car, and the guy got out and photographed it, and then he called his boss, said, I was just in an accident with the company car, and his boss said, oh, what'd you do? And he said, I took pictures of the car. And they said, quick, delete those pictures. And the guy deleted the pictures. And I told my friend, I said, you realize that if an attorney finds out about that, you guys are screwed, because they're presumed to be bad if you deleted them. If it was going to help you, you would have saved them. So I don't know whatever became of that, but that's an extremely important concept, and it exists in all 50 states in America. Spoliation of evidence. You don't want to ever do it. Now, the other two things that pop up with dash cams is dash cams often record not only what's in front of the lens, but they'll often record the sound from around the camera. So in other words, I've got a dash cam on my dashboard, it's pointing straight forward and it's filming the roadway in front of me. It might not be recording the sound that matches that. It's recording the sound from inside the car, because a lot of these dash cams got built-in microphones that are simply recording the sound that they hear, and since they're on the inside of the windshield, they're recording the sound from inside the car. You should know that if you're recording the voices of other people speaking, in some states, you may have to notify them of the fact that you are in fact recording their voices. And some states have got wiretap statutes, and some states have got what they call eavesdropping statutes. And they refer to this as a single consent or a dual consent concept. So in other words, I'm talking to you. I can record the conversation I'm having with you if this is a single consent state, because I agree to record my own voice. And it only takes the consent of one person in the conversation to tape it. Michigan, for instance, is a single consent state. There are other states out there that are dual consent states, which means that you have to have permission from both parties in the conversation to record the conversation. That's why a lot of times when you're making a phone call to a company and they're going to record the phone call, they come right out and tell you, this phone call may be recorded. And the reason they're telling you that is because if they didn't tell you it's being recorded, they'd be breaking the law in a lot of states across America. The same is true of your dash cam. Now, don't get me wrong, if you and your buddies are driving around drifting in your car late one night and you're recording it and you're getting their voices on tape, I doubt that they're going to come back and sue you for invasion of privacy or violations of eavesdropping statute because you didn't tell them that, by the way, the sound on my dash cam was picking up your voices. But I can picture some situations where somebody gets into your car, they don't know you. I'll give you an example I can make up right now. You're in a car accident and you got the whole thing on your dash cam, but you're not sure what it shows. The other person gets out of their car to sit in your car while you exchange information. And while you're talking to them, you say, by the way, you ran a red light, correct? And they say, yeah, I'm sorry about that, I ran the red light. Now, you just got them on tape saying that, but if you're in a state that is not single consent and you didn't inform them that they were going to be recorded, that recording might not be admissible in court, and the recording might actually be a violation of the law if you were to try to introduce it later. Or if you can let the other side know it exists, they might come back after you for violating that statute. So you should always let people know in your vehicle, by the way, this thing is picking up sound, okay? That's extremely important. Now, the final thing that pops up from time to time with dash cams is probably the most entertaining. We've seen a couple situations lately where somebody's dropped their vehicle off at a dealership for repairs under warranty, and the car's got a dash cam on it. And after they leave the dealership, a couple of the knuckleheads from behind the counter at the dealership decide to take the vehicle for a test drive, and they go out zipping around, speeding, overworking the clutch, if you know what I mean, beating on the car. There's a great example. I think it was a Ford Mustang where the techs were just abusing the car, and it was caught on a dash cam. Now, I've had people ask me, Steve, was that legal? And there's an interesting question. There's actually several interesting questions that arise there because I don't know what state that took place in. But the question simply arises, did those people know they were being recorded? And the answer probably is they probably didn't. But on the other hand, if the dash cam is in plain view, it's right there in front of the driver, and it's got a blinking light on it, which suggests that it is in fact recording something. And then the driver's doing goofy stuff anyways. I can picture a court saying, well, you know something, you should have assumed you were being recorded when you saw the camera and a blinking light. The question, however, changes if the camera is not obvious. I've had people say, I want to plant a hidden camera in my car, or maybe mount a GoPro underneath the suspension of my car. Or there's a lot of places you can hide those things because they're very, very small. So could I hide the camera in my car? And the answer there is if you hide it in the interior of the car and it records the voice of the people inside the car without their knowledge, and you're not there, you are quite likely going to run afoul of eavesdropping statutes or wiretap statutes, depending on what it's called in your state. But you can almost never record the conversation of somebody when you're not part of the conversation and they are unaware of the recording. So you have to be very, very careful of the sound. On the other hand, the dash cam on the outside of the car, take a GoPro and mount it on the underside of your car, for instance, and it's not recording what's going on inside the passenger compartment, that's probably legal all day long because you're not recording anybody. You're simply recording the activity of your car. So if you wanted to do this legally, I suppose you could, stash the GoPro someplace and it would, catch what was being done to the car, but it wouldn't catch what was being said by the people inside the car. And that's where you're going to run afoul of the law, is when you catch people's voices and record those voices without the consent of the speakers and they're unaware of it. That's where you're going to run into trouble. So with respect to dash cams, if it's simply something you put on your own dashboard to record your own driving habits and possibly to defend yourself in a lawsuit later on down the road, that's great. Make sure it doesn't obstruct your vision and be aware of the fact that it's creating evidence that anybody can use, and if you destroy the evidence, that could come back to haunt you. You don't ever want to be guilty of spoliation of evidence. Likewise, during a traffic stop, if you leave it on the dashboard, the police officer walks up and he sees it, you're probably fine. But you should know that in some states, recording the police, even while they're talking to you without their permission or without their consent, might get you into trouble. Whether that'll hold up when you go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, I don't know. Do you want to go to the U.S. Supreme Court on this? Who knows? Maybe you could become like Miranda, and you could, be, it's like Lehto versus the U.S. I could be the one who takes it up, although I don't plan on it. So traffic stops, that's what that's all about. People in your car, your own passengers, you're probably okay, but you might want to tell them, let's suppose you're driving around with relatives and somebody, one of your relatives' friends gets in the car and starts saying crazy stuff. You might say, hey, dude, by the way, I've got a dash cam here. Be careful because it's recording voices. I don't know what's going to happen to it. I'm not going to turn it into the police, but, just to be careful, I'm letting you know it's being recorded right now. But also, you should know what the law is in your state, whether it's single consent or dual consent. And if it's single consent, you might be good, but again, you might piss off somebody when they find out what you've been doing. And then finally, if you leave it in your car when your car is being serviced, if it's recording the voices of the occupants of the car, you could get in trouble if you're not in the car while it's recording, because then, no question, that's eavesdropping. You are not part of the conversation that these other people are having. So when I saw that video of the Mustang being abused by the techs at that one dealership, and I heard them talking on the camera, one of the first things I thought of was, if I was the attorneys for these people, the first thing I would have said is I would run to court and said, hey, that tape was created illegally. I want it removed from the internet. I want it taken down. And by the way, we're thinking about countersuing the guy who owns the car for doing that because of the fact that he was eavesdropping on the occupants of the car without their permission. And I understand there's a good argument to be made that, well, they're in someone else's car. They don't have the same expectation of privacy. But you don't want to be litigating this because you might wind up litigating it till the cows come home. So if you're in the car, great. But if you're not in the car, don't do it. You can always mount the camera someplace else if you want to take a stab at that. But then the question, of course, is what happens if they put your car up on the hoist and they see a GoPro camera mounted to the sway bar pointed forward and it's running. Who knows? So those are things to think about with the legalities of dash cams. And of course, local laws may vary. Send me questions or comments or consult a local attorney. Do what you got to do to find out what you're doing. But again, like I said before, this is emerging technology and a lot of this will evolve over time. Questions or comments, always, you can check out my website, lehtoslaw.com, LEHTOSLAW.com. I'm on Twitter, at Steve Lehto, at STEVELEHTO. This show is available to be listened to or watched iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.